There are two kinds of people in this world: victims and owners. For a long time, I lived my life as a victim. Victims are controlled by fear. We do things because we're scared if we don't, that we will fail. We do things because we don't want to disappoint people. We do things for reasons other than listening to our hearts. For a long time, I lived in victimhood because I didn't want to disappoint my parents. I didn't want to leave my job as a teacher because I didn't want to disappoint my students. So I just did a lot of, well, I guess my life is just okay. But each of us experiences a moment in our life where we have to change. And this month, interestingly enough for me, is the 10th anniversary of when I almost died. It's the 10th anniversary of when I almost died because I didn't care about myself enough to know and enough to pay attention to what would happen to me. Let me paint the picture for you. It was New Year's Eve, 2008. I was 23 years old, and I was going to this New Year's Eve party with my best friend. I was so excited that I was drinking the whole day because drinking was what I did to cope with my life. I wasn't satisfied, and in order to make sure that I could get through each day, I would drink. I would put alcohol in my coffee before I went to school to teach my students, and I would drink alcohol at night so that I could go to bed. So this was a day that I was super excited to drink alcohol because I actually could, because that's what people do when they celebrate, isn't it? So I was all good. But when I got to the party, I had been drinking so much that I was taking other people's drinks when they went to the bathroom. And there was a moment where everything stopped. And I remember I was trying to find my best friend, and I was like going down the stairs, putting one foot in front of the other. And it was in New York City, so there were spiral staircases, and I'm like, oh, okay. But there became a moment where I just lost control of like my ability to walk. And I just sat down on the staircase. I couldn't remember anything after that. And the next thing I remember is I wake up and there's this fluorescent light, and I see these three faces. The first face is my mother. The second face that comes into view is my father. And the third face is my best friend who I went to the New Year's party with. And I get up and I freak out and I'm like, what's happening? And my friend looks at me and she says, I'm sorry, Julia. I didn't know what else to do. You weren't responding, so I had to call your parents. And I realized that I was in an emergency room in a hospital bed. And that was so embarrassing for me because I worked really hard at trying to keep my personal life secret to my family because they knew me the way that I looked on paper. They knew that I had gone to a good school, graduated from a great grad school, and I was a teacher, I was successful. But they didn't know what I did to try to help myself cope every day. Ownership is about taking control of your life, having accountability for everything that you do. And that was a life-changing moment where I had to start taking ownership of my life. And I started to ask myself really important questions. There's this amazing quote by Tony Robbins, one of my favorite speakers, and he says, your life happens for you, not to you. And for a long time, living in victimhood, my life happened to me. Everything came at me, and I had to just do the best that I could to navigate. But remember, in life, your life happens for you. The things that you experience happen on purpose. So what I had to do is I had to start writing, and I had to start asking myself, Julia, what is really going on with you? And sometimes we don't want to face those questions in our lives. We don't want to ask ourselves about the pain that we're experiencing. We don't want to deal with it. But I started journal writing, and it became the most powerful thing I've ever done. And it's something you have to practice every single day. And so to this day, even in my backpack, I have my journal. And everything I experienced was about self-love. So my call to action for you is make sure you face those important questions and love yourself.